The imprint versus the...
I just cleared my throat way too much in church, and then like I told someone I was scared that last time I left because I did, and I came back to the same pew because they wanted to like say like, why am I alone? Like I'm done redeeming my own self because last time I got scared and I left her. That threw off the conversation to left field, and she didn't know what to say after that. And she's like, I'm glad you stayed. I'm like, right. So when you're real intricate with more things, it can be different than like hand-picked. If it's hen-pecked, that means the middleman stomped on it. It'd be watered down. So what I was trying to describe earlier is a button that has a separate function when you touch it. It's a physical attribute, but if it's making for an electronic disablement, it's also doubling as a switch. Any slight touch of this will throw the whole computer off. And so I saw little kids picking up all these Easter eggs right before them. There was a whole bunch of trash that had blown everywhere. So the equivalence of trash to Easter eggs on the ground is a relation, something of kind of like, I've never been in a lobby that was considered a bar and have a guy in an electric chair at the head of the table. The very next morning see another handicapped person. So like, what's the difference between the three scenarios?
The impact on someone's life, I know, is like invisible if it's not a physical attribute, but the impression can be a consciousness point of view where it's psychological, 10 times as detriment, and can mean a whole world of difference. And the fact that I just saw a person who detained me and a person who I was intimate with is crazy, because they both remember me and then they don't have shit to show for the interaction that they had with me earlier, good or bad. It's just interesting that I saw both of them one day after another in this vicinity. A literal representation of what a human is can be thought up of an existence that's a deposit, especially if that's where your ending will be. And if you figure out different, then you're probably an intricate connoisseur, one of which would look at life as a little bit more than a body as a deposit. How many things do we deposit? I heard on an Alien one time that they had an ability for taking people and having them go to sleep and wake up, and they didn't have to use the bathroom, even though they were asleep for more than one day. That ability is something that you can look at as a spectacle, as all humans are depositing relief of themselves, whether it be from burping or flatulence or liquids or solids. Chromosomes are a definitive of that dialect, as the change in them is something that has been looked at in science as an attribute of bipolar, even though it's a disease. I've been told I've got gum disease, and it's just because I had a retainer that shredded them, put in 3 times with cement and taken out, and it was hard metal. And he's like, that's why it shrunk. And then another guy's like, you have a disease. I read that in a book. If your gums recede, then it's a gum disease. So in what point is an attribute of getting angry? And people actually sometimes do so, is it's an imprint on your chromosome if you have bipolar, versus any deposits you make that day. Is it read as a story wound up, and the only person who knows the ending is God, because he rolls the scrolls at the very end of time, and that is why he already planted a seed of a human, and then the human who was God said, Christians get it as well. And Jewish people are supposed to show how great God is, so you can actually see a legitimacy of how they view God, but his son is like a seed that perfectly avatared God. So any medicine deducted is an interaction with the body of the living Christ, and that's what blood can formulate so well around. If an organ was just a thing that has a definite structure like your hair, and your hair is never perfect, so that's an identification of a quality of a freedom that you can have with your organ if it were made out of hemp. Okay, so instead of jumping off of a thing in front of a lady who I used to bag her groceries, and then I saw her at a different park, and for no odd reason, I just saw her right after. I saw the two most interesting people in the last 2 days. The only guy who detained me on planet Earth. He actually did so twice in Mequon, and I just saw him in here yesterday. And then just a few minutes ago, I saw the last person on Earth that I kissed on the lips. And I hadn't seen her for like probably 5 years, but before then, we stopped kissing like probably 5 years before the last 5 years, so I haven't kissed a person on the lips for over a decade, and I just saw that person, and I knew it was them, because then they called out her name. So other than that, this was, because like, then I just saw a person who, I'd seen her a long time. She seemed normal. That's great, because I've been checking. Because I had to stop to notice that there was one kid who stood up in a restaurant and spun in a circle and started eating chicken, and I almost felt like throwing up. So anytime a kid got up and it kind of looked like he was about to do something, it made me nauseous. And then I also saw, more interestingly, 2 kids stick their tongue out, and one got really ruthless after because they couldn't move inside of a pew. And then the other one just looked like they had a problem with their like physical attributes, like Down syndrome, so their tongue was out. So I was trying not to like judge, but in the same respect, I think that both of them had their tongues out because they're trying to figure out a way how to interact before something gets covered up. And that's really as the same regard that when you're growing before adolescence, your speech, mine was impaired because I couldn't pronounce certain letters properly, and instead of that as a scapegoat, even if it weren't, it was just slow learning. If kids are learning to stick out their tongue to be interactive, that is open to a wide range of material that is inappropriate. But just the fact that that's like a thing that I've perceived twice in the last hour during the interaction with like the other 3 characters that I just got done describing. And the only lady that I recognized her from, because I bagged her groceries multiple times in a grocery store, so I recognized her right away, and she probably like noticed that as well. Everyone's hair has a certain amount and a definite structure. These 2 things can be taken for granted and used as sorcery if you had someone who is smarter than anyone currently handling your hair. Even if it's gone, it's the residual effect that is an actual thing. And that is like a phantom limb. If you lose an arm or a leg, that might cost you one. But the residual effect of your muscle memory, having it be there, is a legitimacy. That looked like a I love you, and then I was trying to read the name in cursive, but apparently they got left short. Oh yeah, and there are a whole bunch of like pilgrims that are kind of like redneck descendants. And that's the same exact thing, because it was real genuine, like some of the words that they used in the tones and everything. And I was trying to get over like being congested, so I accidentally cleared my throat 2 times that were inappropriate, and that actually probably made me more aware of the surroundings, which, no surprise, I saw 2 songs sticking out. Last time I saw a police officer at a grocery store, someone left in handcuffs, and it was a cash register, so they had taken too much. So the difference of an environment versus an embodiment could be what Matilda saw as the chokey, a vessel that pokes you. The gnashing of teeth could be seen as this if the environment is horrendous, versus the belly of the beast is you in it. And so there's one instance where the